wonder if I could trademark some type of G letter. Like a font.
Sure you can.
Oh, ready? Oh,
Sure.
all right. Well, hey, good afternoon. I'm Gabe Glidden here. Episode number 3 of 2G coverage. We have Mr. Paul Lundquist in the building. Paul, thank you for being guest number 3.
Gabriel, it's a pleasure.
For this magnificent, insanely popular show.
Sure.
That we have going on. Paul, first things first, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a small town in South Dakota called Selby. Town of 707 people in north central South Dakota.
And so how far is that from, like, Winona? As far as, like, a car ride in hours?
It's about 8-9 hours.
I don't know how you would do that. That's a lot. So did you have to
You
drive?
do in a car.
Okay, so how did you go from, like, there to Brown? Because Brown College is where you went to school for radio broadcasting. That's where I went. Tyler went. A lot of people in the building.
Yeah, I actually, I was working at a radio station, KOLY in Mobile, South Dakota, Star 99, and was doing weekends and some copywriting and just started working there in high school. And they had the scholarship that was available. That was a super easy application. It was basically you had to fill out a sheet of paper like this. It was like basically name, address.
Right.
And then you do a demo tape and talk about some stuff, send it in, and I got that scholarship. I was it was down between Brown and Northland Community College at Thief River Falls, Minnesota, because I liked their college radio station a lot.
And so when you went to Brown, did they still have the TV option? Or had they kind of dropped that by that point?
Well, let me give you a little historical lesson here.
Because I know you're not like 70, like when we had Greg Taylor on last week, but you were there a while before I got there.
I was. I started at Brown Institute. And
So it wasn't even Brown College at the time?
No, I started at Brown Institute. I graduated from Brown College. So I started at Brown Institute, and that was still when, because for those of you that don't know, Brown actually started as a radio school. And was a fairly prestigious radio school, and then kind of got into doing a little bit of everything, and went the kind of globe college, will do anything corporate college route, and just kind of fell apart. So but it was good. I went. They still had TV and radio. The big three were visual communications, which is kind of an artistic thing, radio and television.
Right, and now I think one of the big ones is something to do with the nursing program. I can't remember. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So, you graduate from Brown College. What was your first, like, big kid radio job? How old were you when you started that?
I was 18 or 19. I went to Grinnell, Iowa, and I started off afternoons on a little AM station, KGRN, and eventually went to mornings. Became the assistant program director. I did the website. I did all kinds of stuff. It was really, in hindsight, it was a really, really terrible job. I worked for a terrible human being. The job was terrible. It was long, long hours.
I was going to say, isn't that when you were doing like 7 days a week or whatever?
I was doing 7 days a week, working like 18-hour days, and it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. There's so many things that were wrong there. And then left there, got a job in Ottumwa, Iowa. I was a program director of 2 stations there, KBIZ and KTWA. I liked that a lot better, but that was going through some management trouble, and that ended up being a lot of hours. And I think I set the record for consecutive days working there. I think I worked for 6 months straight without a day off, something like that. But I got to do some cool stuff. I got to start the first Latino radio show in southeast Minnesota, La Onda Latina. It's still going. It's the Latin Wave, in case you're interested.
Okay. I'll check that out when I up my Spanish abilities.
La Onda Latina. But I got to do some cool stuff there. And then I came here.
Yeah, so then what was that transition like? You go from these towns in Iowa to Winona, which obviously isn't like this giant place, but it's not. There's more than 700 people here, like in Selby.
Yeah.
Is like Winona like big as far as compared to the towns you were at in regards to like population?
Ottumwa was decent size. It was smaller than Winona. But Grinnell was pretty tiny. Yeah. It wasn't much of a transition. When I came here, this is going to be my big middle step, because I before that I didn't stay anywhere longer than 18 months, so I've been moving around pretty quick, and this was going to be the spot on my resume. I was going to be here for 3 years to prove that I could stick somewhere and then go either smaller middle market or maybe up to major market, somewhere in there, in my big grand scheme of things. So I got here, stayed here. I've been here for 12 years now.
Half of like my life, pretty much.
Yeah. And I like it here. I don't know why. I've interviewed for jobs all over. I've interviewed jobs in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was going to be do a morning show down there. Tampa, Florida. I've interviewed at CCO up in the cities. I was a finalist for morning show producer for a station called K-Talk. I was going to be the morning show producer for now representative candidate. He's running for Representative Jason Lewis. I was going to be a producer for his morning show. And all of them didn't happen for very weird reasons. One, the morning show with Jason Lewis didn't work because that was right when he stormed off and quit. I didn't get a job being a reporter at CCO because that was right before they did a big switch, and some people got moved. I didn't get a job in Tampa because the program director that I had a good connection with got moved to Raleigh. I didn't get the job in Raleigh because they ended up rehired someone that used to work there that they wouldn't have to pay to relocate, and already was well established in the community and fresh out of rehab.
So there's been like this windy road map for like your radio life, it sounds.
It has been, but I think that I was meant to be here. I'm not a very spiritual person, but when too many weird things happen, you kind of have to think that you're maybe either self-sabotaging or something. And I don't know, I like it here. I mean, I'm married, I got a kid, and I got a house, and
kind of doing the adult thing.
Yeah, I mean, I put down roots here, and so far, I'm only a few years away from this being the longest place that I've ever lived. So I like it.
So yeah, then we'll go back to when you first got here. What was your first like job here? What shows did you do? Because I know you're on KG95.3 at one point in the afternoons. I know you did a morning show on a music station, and we're going to get into your AM 1230 morning show. But what were your first like jobs here?
The first job here was program director of what was then Soft Rock 101.1, and I also did mornings. And then I did afternoons from 11 to 2 on KG 95.3, and I voice tracked that, recorded it ahead of time. And did commercials, that was it. When I came here, I was super burnt. I was really burnt out and wanted nothing to do with radio management. And when I came here, I had 2 other job offers. One in, I can't remember what the name of the town is in Iowa. One in another town in Iowa. And then one, actually, they wanted me to come back to South Dakota, and I didn't want to do that. So I came here because this was the least amount of responsibility for the most pay. So that's why
Which makes sense. And I think, and I've asked everyone this who I've talked to so far is, like, why radio? For me, it's just I'm not, like, good at anything else. And I'm not even probably very good at this, but at least I attempt to be good at this. Why radio, and why have you, like, stuck with it after all these, like, moves and job things that went wrong and the transitions we've gone through here? Like, why do you still actively do your show every day?
Well, okay, 2 funny stories. One, the first funny story is I used that line because I'm not good at anything else. I was judging some kind of an American Idol thing for the Fox TV station out of Rochester. And one of the guys that was there, it was also another radio guy. And they were switching tapes, and so there was some downtime, and the contestant was just standing on stage being bored. And we started talking, and they said, "Why are you in radio?" And I gave that answer. I said, well, because I failed at pretty much everything else.
Right.
The other radio guy there got super angry. He got super butthurt about the whole thing. He was like, "I wanted to be in radio since I was 6 years old."
Right.
And I didn't. Like, when I grew up, we have more stations in this building than I could listen to when I was growing up. So
big town. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. It was in the middle of nowhere. We had, and this is AM and FM. So I think there was only 4 stations that we could listen to, and none of them were real, despite the fact that I worked for them and still have friends there. None of them were real great influential stations. I mean, they were pretty run-of-the-mill. I was really good at video editing. In high school, took a class called Communications Technology, where we recorded sporting events and cut them out into highlight tapes, and I was really good at it, and I enjoyed it. And I ended up teaching the next class when I was a sophomore, or a junior in high school. I was a junior in high school. I ended up teaching the advanced communications technology class because none of the other instructors could. So I sort of took it over. And I was really good at it, started looking around all over the Midwest. And there was, at least from what I found, I know there is now, but from the schools that I looked at, none of them really had a video editing school. So everything was part of mass comm.
Right.
And I knew this, very rarely in my life have I ever made good choices. But every once in a while, there's like this nugget of light that comes down where I made like a solid, well-reasoned choice.
Right.
And this was one of them. I realized that when I was in high school, I was A's or D's. I either was all in or didn't care.
Right.
It's
very common with a lot of the announcers in this building, I think, by the way.
Well, it's a personality trait. Anyway, I'm still kind of like that, but I'm better. And I looked through all of these different mass comm courses, and they all had at least a semester to a quarter of radio. And I'd never done radio. I was like, this doesn't really have any kind of bearing on what I want to do. And I knew that if I didn't like it, I was going to tank it, and that was going to be the end of it.
Right.
I mean, I could fake it through just about everything else, but I didn't think I could fake it through that. So I decided to take a job. I was actually for high school credit, at a local radio station at KWNO-AM, and I actually had an on-air show. It was terrible. It was called Lunch with London. It was stupid. Was
that one of those like radio names that you were given, or you had to give yourself?
No, they said that you should have a radio name. So up until I came here, I used the name Paul Lundquist, spelled Lundden.
Right.
London.
And let me be the first to say that when I first got here, Paul, I think, had a big influence of hiring me. He would never, ever accept a radio name that I had picked, and he said, because they're stupid. So, you can continue on with the Paul Lundquist story.
Yeah, because I, right about the time, I was pretty much over everything when you got here, and
right.
Realized that the kind of the trend of where radio is going, where it is going, is honesty. Because there's so much media and so much stuff out there, people have a really good BS filter.
Right.
You know, people can tell when something is a lie from quite a ways out. Like, you're not fooling anybody.
Right.
Like, a great example is, like, if you look at movies. I was just watching the original Red Dawn from 1984 the other day. The acting in that is terrible. The only thing that is worse is the writing. The story doesn't make any sense at all. Like, all of a sudden, in this little small town somewhere in the Midwest, they never actually name it.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's, like, an army that just pops out of nowhere. And there's people that are parachuting into the town. And then it, like, switches. All of a sudden, it's, like, October. It makes no rhyme or reason, the entire thing. But that was cool back then.
Right.
Now, that would be considered a trash B movie that you'd see on, like, Mystery Science Theater or something, because you couldn't get away with it.
So do you think that plays a role in kind of, and it's not a new show for you, you've been doing it for a little bit, but you went from doing, like, these music shows that I do on KWNO-AM in the mornings to, like, this very original and very, very different from any other show in the building. You and I joked around about, like, how we have, like, 50s country music over here. We got you screaming at Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. We got B. Riley giving away Keith Urban tickets, and I'm on here telling you what Ariana Grande wore to the whatever. And you have, like, this very original show that's separate from a lot of them. Do you think that plays a fact into that? Is the BS filter? It makes you not afraid to kind of just go for it? Because I had that issue when I first started. I always thought I was so young that no one ever cared about my opinion because I didn't know anything.
Right.
And so I was always kind of afraid to pick a side. Do you think it plays a factor in the fact that you get to really just kind of go for it on AM 1230 KWNO?
Well, I kind of had to work into that because when I first started doing the show, it was a talk show, and I wasn't really big into politics, mostly because I think I later found out that kind of the stance that I took is a pretty common one, where I didn't really have a whole lot of vested interest in any of the political candidates. And I didn't really like partisanship, and it just felt like I didn't belong in the political spectrum. So it's like, I don't like politics, I'm not really into it. The more and more I started looking at stuff and talking about it, the more I kind of got into it and realized that there are more people out there that are like me than I think anyone really knows. I think right now we're seeing that more than anything because we have, historically, the two least liked presidential candidates in the history of our country. And if you look at some of the history of the presidents we've had some terrible ones. I mean, we've had some fall down alcoholics that only got elected because their friend wrote a book about them. I mean, we've got some we've got presidents that have only been around for a couple days because they refused to wear a coat for their inauguration speech and got pneumonia and died. I mean, so to say that we have these low approval ratings is something. And so when I first started off, I said on my show, well, I'm not going to talk about politics, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Because I didn't feel like I really kind of belonged there.
Right.
But then you realize that the people that are super hardcore, especially to the right or to the left, they're the minority. They're the ones that are really poisoning everything that has to do with politics. And they're the cause of these people that are the low information voter. They're the reason why people don't like to talk about politics, because you immediately go from a 1 to a 10. And when I realized that it's okay if people want to go to 10, I'm going to go right in the middle. And the stance that I have is that I don't like partisan politics.
Right.
And I really had to kind of work up the courage to start talking about that. And it doesn't jive with the rest of the program that we have on KWNO. Like, it's
in the least bit.
It's a super whiplash when I'm done and Laura Ingraham or Rush Limbaugh comes on, because I'm way farther to the left than they are. But despite the fact that I do lean a lot more to the left, I still think that my stance is not unique, and I just had to kind of work up the courage to do that. And so I had to kind of take my own medicine to kind of get back to it, take my own advice, and actually get real about stuff, because you're never going to be as passionate about something that you don't actually believe in.
Right, it's a lot easier to get into it when you care.
Like I told you, and I told Tyler, and I've told just about everyone that I've trained here, you know you better than anyone.
Right.
And the new thing in radio is going to be personality development, because it's basic economics. You've got supply and you got demand. And the only way to really have a successful product is to have a product that you control the supply of. So when you have the complete supply of Gabe Glidden, there's only one place to get that, and that's right here. You can get Ariana Grande anywhere.
Right.
I mean, there's probably 4 things in this room that I can get Ariana Grande music on.
Probably.
But there's only one place you can get Gabe Glidden, and that's right there.
That makes sense.
So
here's another question then that I've asked every person who's came in to talk is
this going to be like the record for the longest?
Easily, yeah, for sure. Is the stereotypes of radio DJs, and I've said I don't even like that term, by the way, being called a DJ, because I'm not in here like spinning discs. I hate that term. But I always go on the stereotype that, like, a lot of people think that they can just walk into a building and, like, sit on a microphone and do a show. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, because I think we do a good enough job to make it look fairly easy or sound like it should be easy, and that's just not the case, and I just kind of don't like that stereotype. Are there any stereotypes of you yourself or radio DJs that you can't stand, or they're a pet peeve of yours at all?
Yeah.
I knew that answer was coming.
the one that I think I hate more than anything is what I call the Duff Man. Because there is, and I don't remember if
We've probably talked about this before.
I think I don't know if I told you or I told Tyler this. Like, if there's ever any time someone can do an imitation of what you're doing, stop it.
Right.
Because it's dumb. I hate the idea of the people like, oh, this is number one in the morning. Oh,
yeah,
my
the
God.
radio voice,
We're going to go down to this number one pizza place where you can kick our intern to the nuts. Oh, we're going to go to Traffic of the Tens right here. That I hate so much because that's one of the main things that we need to get rid of. Because that's trash. There's absolutely nothing to it. It's completely vapor.
Yeah, it just seems like really like phony and fake. No one talks like that out in public.
No,
right.
And again, when it comes back to the BS filter, like anyone can do this job.
Right. Yeah, is capable. Correct.
Yeah, you can get on and you can turn knobs and click buttons and stuff like that. It doesn't take a very super intense skill set, but to do it well is a whole different ball of wax.
Right.
And you can listen to people that do the job and they're fine. I mean, they can read stuff and they can do whatever. But to actually do the job, to be entertaining, informative, and all that jazz takes a certain skill set. It's more of an art than a science.
Well, makes sense. Well, Paul, guest number 3 on 2G coverage. I appreciate you stopping on in.
No problem.
I will probably be looking through my computer at your face tomorrow morning.
That's fine. Hashtag shave the man bun.
I gotta, because I brought this up to B. Riley, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you absolutely love it? Because now it's to the point I won the bet, that's done. But the fact that I get so much joy out of the irritation on you and B. Riley's face when you like look at me, I can't cut it. I won't cut it.
It really is getting to the point now where you're almost turning into like a stereotype of like a super hipster, crunchy granola guy. Like you're not wearing it today because it's raining, but you got the ankle suede boots, and you're wearing the earth tone skinny jeans. And before long, you're going to be coming in with like a Ziploc of your own granola that you made.
Yeah. And
it's going to be, you get the man bun.
And then at some point I'll walk in with the fedora hat that I wear around once in a while.
Like, Corey's going to teach you about archery and tomahawk throwing, and you and him are going to go out and commune with nature. And
how to fix brakes.
Yeah. That too. Well, anyway, thanks for stopping in, man. Next week, 2G coverage. I'm not sure who we're going to get. We were going to try to get Amy Fox. She has a sick kid. She's not really feeling very good today, so we couldn't get her. So we got our next best option.
Great. Plan B.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see who we get to next
My wife would probably say the same thing.
Jesus. Thanks for tuning in.